of the. Okay, so here ayah number 183, 81, just a quick review. فمن بدل, whoever changes بعدما سمعه, whoever changes the will after hearing it, meaning the one writing the will, if they change it, then what happens? فإنما إثمه, then the sin is on them. So basically, a person is not, whoever is writing the will or the family members, when they receive the will, they're not allowed to change the will because it's a sin. Okay. So Inna Allah Samiyun Alim, Allah is all hearing, all knowing, meaning Allah knows what that person wished and narrated when that will was written. So a person is not allowed to change it. But there are certain stances that any person who is writing a will, or if a will is written and they come across it, there are certain times when some sort of change is allowed. Now, what is that? Ayah number 182, Allah said, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوصٍ جَنَفًا, if the person thinks that the one who is narrating the will is doing some sort of injustice, like, the person says, I want to give half of my wealth to my caregiver. So then the one who is writing the will can suggest, it's not allowed, it's not good. In fact, you'll be sinful. So instead of doing something good, you're actually doing more harm. This is the max you can. So here a person is allowed. Or if a will is written and then the family members receive it and they see, they consult the legal person in between, and then instead of half, only 1/3 is given and the other 2/3 is distributed among the legal inheritance. So for aslahu, that person, so either the one who is writing the will, at that time he notices that this person who's narrating the will, or if they receive a legal document, it's incorrect, then they can advise. Or after the person has left this world, then someone who's from the legal authority or the family members can suggest, then they can make certain islah, certain changes bainahum, and then there will not be fala isma, because in the previous ayah Allah says the one who changes the will, there's going to be a sin, but other than for righteous purpose. If the person who's trying to, there's some sort of injustice, and if anyone who does injustice, they have to pay back in the hereafter. So here you're protecting the person who's narrating the will, and also the other, to avoid any kind of conflict in between people. Inna Allah ghafurur rahim, Allah is the most forgiving and most merciful. And the next ruling, and it tells us, it goes over the ayah of Ramadan. In fact, the ayah 183 onwards are the only ayat in the Quran that talk about fasting and the month of Ramadan specifically. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam. Allah has made obligatory on you fasting. And as you know, fasting is among the 5 pillars of Islam. It is mandatory. It is obligatory on a person to fast in the month of Ramadan. And why? And the literal meaning of fasting, sama yasumu, the Arabic word, means to stay away from things that a person naturally desires. Because the literal meaning of fasting is to stay away from something that a person naturally desires. And what is a person natural? From the natural desires of a human is eating, drinking, and physical needs as such. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made fasting obligatory, كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم, just the way He had made obligatory upon people, nations before you. So even before this, even before the ummah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even the Jews and the Christians and they also used to fast. Of course, their fasts were different, how they were, but they had some sort of fasting too, just the way they had some sort of salah too. Okay, and salah was there. Okay, in fact, even in the previous time, there was also fasting of speech, right? And for example, Maryam alayhi salam, okay, she was asked, when you give birth, you have to fast. And the word used in Surah Al-Maryam is sawm. Sawm means to stop, right? So here is stopping of speech for us. So when Allah said, do not talk. And of course, we know Isa alayhi salam, baby Isa was the one who spoke from the cradle. But so fasting was there even previously in other nations other than the Ummah of Rasulullah. But here we have certain different kind of fasting, and the fasting here is of fasting from sunrise. The legal definition of fasting: sunrise to sunset. You do not eat. A person does not engage in eating, drinking, or in sexual relationship. So من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Okay, so what is the purpose of fasting? Why we have to fast in the month of Ramadan? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the purpose of fasting is to develop taqwa in a person. Okay, taqwa is what? It is the consciousness of Allah. It is to stay away from disobedience of Allah, to stay away from sins, committing sins. Taqwa also means like a shield, to create a shield between yourself and the hellfire, okay, and from committing those deeds that cause a person displeasure of Allah. This is taqwa. Okay, in translation it is called is translated God consciousness, or being aware at all times about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, how does fasting help with that? Okay, how fasting? So if you look at the pillars of Islam, okay, so either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do things or to stop yourself from things. And really, in our actions, basically, when it comes to our relation with Allah, either we do things or we don't do things, right? We either do good things and stay away from certain things, right? So for example, prayer, it's actions. You do things, you read certain du'as, you're certain acts of salah. Okay, so basically is performing of different actions. Same for Hajj, you do perform Hajj. For zakat, you give zakat, right? So these, for shahada, you take the shahada, like or verbally, and also of course in your heart. But for fasting, what is fasting? As we know, the literal meaning of fasting is that to stop, and it's one of the actions that stops. So how does fasting increase the taqwa? Is when a person stops themselves from doing things that Allah has made normal or natural in normal times. For example, when a person stays away, eating is not a wrong thing, right? In fact, in the previous ayat, we were encouraged to eat good, wholesome, healthy food, right? And halal food. So eating, drinking, and Allah SWT says, enjoy from the blessings of Allah. So eating and drinking, and for some people, the people who are married, having physical relation, these are not haram, these are not wrong, and it's a very natural thing that Allah built in a human being, and it's a natural way of acting upon them. But when a person stays away from these natural instincts, then what do you think about things that are haram for a person? What the things that are forbidden for a person, the things that are wrong, like backbiting, gossiping, indecent speech, seeing and hearing and saying things that are not appropriate. Okay, all of the things that are not good. If a person is staying away from things that are natural and acceptable, then a person will naturally, if they're not doing that, then they will naturally stop themselves from things that are haram. And this is how the taqwa builds. And it's in every person, the one who fasts in the month of Ramadan, it's so evident that committing sins is not as easy as in normal days, because you're already stopping yourself from your own natural, from your natural state of eating and drinking. And you become, in the beginning it's a little hard, and then it's a training period, right? It's a training period, and by the end of it, in fact, when it's Eid, we are so conscious that even when you're eating, you're feeling, oh my God, how am I eating? Or, oh, I eat, like I ate, right? So it becomes such a natural process for a person. So what about all the other? So this is how a person becomes conscious of Allah. Taqwa is consciousness of Allah. When you're so conscious about like the basic things that you don't even think about on regular times. So this is how taqwa develops in a person. And this is the purpose of fasting. Okay, and fasting is also Okay, and the one who Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever does not give up false speech and acting upon it, meaning lying, and still continues to do that in the state of fasting, then Allah has no need of him giving up his food or drink. So fasting is not just of these food and water and all these things, but it's of the heart, it's of the eyes, it's of your tongue. Okay, and the fast of the person, the one who's just hungry and thirsty, Allah doesn't need that kind of fast. Okay, so fasting teaches us discipline. Okay, fasting teaches us self-control, and we do so, as mentioned earlier, there are two aspects to ibadah, there are two parts to ibadah. Either we do things or we stay away from things, and fasting helps us to develop self-control. Fasting helps us to develop discipline in a person, right? On normal days we act out on our desires, and just like, but fasting helps to develop that kind of control. When a person can control their natural desires of hunger and thirst and other physical desires, and they can control their desire, this is next level, right? Like wanting to commit a sin, right? So if they can control the basic, and hunger and thirst are just the basic things, every human, it's put in us, right? So when a person can control that, then they can definitely control to stay away from these sins that lead to the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, and also the word saum, as mentioned last time as well. Saum, the word fasting, the Arabs used to use this word when they used to train their horses for battles. So what they used to do is they would keep the horses hungry and thirsty for long periods of time, and make them run to develop like stamina in them. So when it's time for the battle, because they in battle they're not going to get food or water easily, and they have become resilient. So it's a way of making a person resilient for the next 11 months that the person has to face. And of course, another thing, we know the devils, the big devils, the shayateen, they're chained, right? So when a person is trained, when a person is training, you don't make them face the real devils or the real enemy, right? When you're in training, the armies, for example, people, soldiers are getting trained, they're not going to start facing the enemy right away. They're getting trained in that period, and then when they're trained, they go and face. So for us, for a believer, fasting, it's a blessing of Allah, it's a mercy of Allah. Allah has made our religion so easy for us, and He has provided us means for us to uh, make ourselves more closer to Allah. And how He has made these means by, for example, introducing things like fasting. So now a person, for example, he doesn't even have to, like, he's already made set these mechanisms in place for us to get closer to him, and he has made it obligatory. So whether you want it or not, you have to do it, and it's for your benefit, because at the end of the day, you're going to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what's better than that, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ayyamam ma'dudat, ayah number 184. So these are few numbered days, meaning, so it has a motivational part to it, where Allah says, yeah, sounds hard, right? A lot of times people ask, you're fasting, like people who are not Muslims or something, they ask, you're fasting, you're hungry for so and so. And sometimes it can be overwhelming for someone, especially when the fasting is for a longer period of time, really long. Like sometimes fasting in Canadian summers, like, it's long. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these days are ayyam ma'duda, they are few number days. They're not too many. So don't worry. When someone's starting, doctor says, it's okay, pain is gonna go away, just a few more hours, you'll be fine. This way. And it's also another reminder that ayyam ma'duda, these are only few days. So you gotta make the most of them. Time is gonna come, and it's gonna go by so swiftly, so quickly. Okay, so فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا, but whoever among you is sick, أو على سفر, or he is traveling. Okay, so the one who is sick or traveling, in this situation, what should that person do? فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, that person should make up after they can not fast and make up later on. Okay, so this kind of leeway is there for any, or this kind of ease is there for someone. So our deen is not harsh. Okay, our deen is not it's flexible when it comes to the sanctity of human body, the preservation. So for example, and what kind of sickness is it talking about? Okay, it's a sickness where it's not a regular light headache, or just feeling a little bit weird in your stomach. It's not that kind of sickness. It's a sickness where when fasting will make it more difficult to get bad, and you'll get more sick. So it's really depend on each person's individual state, and we can judge ourselves. You're able to go about your day normally. Okay, even if you have a slight headache and you're able to go about your day, you don't have to leave that fast. But if, for example, some people whose conditions require them to take like medicines or insulin, or diabetic, or anything in that situation, or you have to take medicine every 4 hours, and if you're fasting, you have to skip it, and it's going to affect your health in more severe manner, that in these cases, that fasting is, the person cannot is allowed to leave that fast, okay, without a sin, and they can complete it. They can fast on later days after the month of Ramadan. And أو على سفر, and here again, traveling. Here, what does traveling mean? Okay, so this traveling, it includes the legal rules of traveling. Okay, so it's not like you're going from here to university, and it's traveling where a person, firstly, number one, so how the scholars have defined traveling is when you leave your city of residence. Number two is when you are 16, so they use the word in Arabic term 16 farsakh. Each farsakh is basically 3 miles. Okay, so 3 times 16, that's 48 miles, or about 80 to 90 kilometers. And again, if a person can, some people really travel far every day for work, and they're okay with it. If they're okay and they're okay to fast, then that's fine. But for some reason, some people it's going to affect them, or they're traveling by air, they're traveling to different country or cities, whatever, then for that period of time, they're allowed to leave the fast. Okay, and this ease in our deen is there for us. Okay, so for example, from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, is that and even in his lifetime, when such situations occurred, like for example, once he was traveling and he saw a bunch of people surrounding a man, and then he learned, and the man was in a difficult situation, or he was sick or something, and then what's they asked him what's the matter with him, and he was also traveling. So he was informed this man's been traveling and he's been fasting and traveling. So Prophet ﷺ at that time said that it's not righteousness to fast and travel, meaning that you don't have to deteriorate your health and affect your health. That's not righteousness. If the Prophet is telling that's not righteous, then it's not. And one thing is also important to understand is that when Allah has given ease, then even following that ease is also a good deed. Okay, following, for example, when a person travels, even a shortening of prayer, right? The qasr prayer, shortening of prayer, it's allowed. And if someone's like, no, I'm going to pray all the full prayer because I am very, but it's no, it's this is what there's good in it. There is khair, there is good deeds in what Allah has made. So take the ease, okay, but should not be an excuse. Really, every person can judge themselves in which situation they are, and then they can follow the rule accordingly. Then وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. And for those who only fast with extreme difficulty, then they can do a fidya. They can pay fidya. So basically, for people here is the third category of people who cannot make up their fast. So, for example, someone who is really like at an old age, where because of that old age or some kind of terminal sickness, which is not even after the month of Ramadan, they can make up for their fast. So, if they are in that situation, then what should they do? They should pay fidya. What is fidya? Fidya is like means compensation. So, it is basically feeding a meal for every fast that a person leaves. You feed a needy person. That is every fast that a person leaves. So if a person is not going to fast at all for the whole month of Ramadan, for 29 or 30 days, how many ever days there are, then they pay that fidya. And I think according to a lot of us, the Islamic Relief, and they have all these websites where you can calculate the fidya, so they can pay, and it's about like I think $10 something per day. So you provide a meal or two meals to someone who is miskin, who doesn't, and miskin is someone who doesn't have the ability to arrange their food for a year. Basically, they're in need. So any person in need, that fidya can be paid. So another thing here comes also about women who are expecting, who are pregnant or breastfeeding. So if they are unable to fast because of that situation, then they can pay their fidya. But once they get better, so they can also fast and make up their fast. But what's the point of paying because fidya is compensation, right? So because later on, women can fast, but they don't know that if after 1 year, like again, if they conceive again, then how long will they leave their fasting, right? So it's better they pay the fidya, okay? And we don't, because they don't know when they'll be able to make up for it. Okay, because women are breastfeeding, then they have another child, and it goes on for years. And what if you lose your life in that situation? The person leaves the world. So it's better to pay fidya. And if you're able to make it later on, then they can make it up later on too, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this is then وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, because the one who fasts, it's better. Fasting is better. Fasting is the better thing to do. But if for any reason you're unable to, then these are the leeways that a person has, ease that a person has. In kuntum ta'lamun, if you only knew. This is important, knowledge. You don't have knowledge, people put a lot of pressure on themselves, and sometimes people take it too lightly too. A little bit heading and they leave it. And there is for no fasting, for leaving fasting for no reason, like for no reason, people who don't fast for no reason, for one fast, what is the makeup? It's one fast that a person leaves for no reason. They have to either fast consecutively for 60 days, or they have to pay for 60 days for a meal of a person. That's for only one fast. And in that consecutive fasting, if they one day they forget to fast or they don't fast, they have to start the cycle again. So it's very tough. So one should not leave the fast for no reason. Okay, unless the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already stated, unless in these situations. Okay, so here, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ayah number 185, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So what is the one thing about Ramadan is fasting. Well, what is the actual virtue of Ramadan is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the month of Ramadan, he revealed the Quran. So that's why the month of Ramadan is also called the month of Quran, because this is the month in which Quran was revealed. That's what elevates this month of Ramadan. Okay, fasting is there, but the main thing that makes this month more virtuous is because Quran was revealed in this month. Okay. And what is Quran? Allah describes. So everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a reason. You have to fast because what's the benefit? You're going to have taqwa. What is Quran? What does Quran do? Hudan linnas. It is guidance for mankind. Okay, what does the Quran do? It gives you guidance. And what is guidance? And guidance is literally holding someone's hand and taking them to their destination. Literal meaning of guidance is to hold someone and take them to their destination. What is our destination? Is destination Jannah. So this is the guidance for mankind. Okay. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى. And a guide for mankind and clear proofs of guidance. Okay, clear proofs meaning Allah has given various signs in the Quran, right? We have two signs for us, things for us to see. One is the signs in the universe, in Allah's creation. Basically, when we see outside in the nature or within ourselves, the human body or all the creation that Allah has created, that's one kind of sign. And the second kind of sign is the Quran. And the Quran itself is full of signs. It's full of guidance, okay? Bayinat. So number one, it's guidance. Number two, it gives you clear proof of Allah's existence. And number three, wal furqan. And furqan, the word furqan means the thing that differentiates between right and wrong. Okay, so we live in the world, times change, different things that were acceptable some time ago are not acceptable now. Things that were not acceptable before in different, 1980s or 70s are not acceptable. So, human beings have decided what is right and what is wrong. But we as believers, how do we live our life? Like, for example, much earlier, people could not accept, they were very uneasy or they were not accepting of, a different gender. And now people are so, this is actually a sign of freedom and all this thing. But who really decides that what is actually acceptable? Right? Not man-made laws, not man-made theories, right? What we decide, how we know what is right and wrong, is from the book of Allah. And what is not, what is forbidden in the book of Allah, it's going to be forbidden from day one, okay, until the end of times. And what is acceptable and allowed will be allowed from day one until the end of times. So Quran is furqan. It tells you what is right and what is wrong, what is true, what is falsehood, okay, what is halal, what is haram. And it's bayin, it's clear. Okay, and it's clear. And this is what living your life by the Quran, okay, that person lives a beautiful life. The person lives a life according to, in fact, Quran makes the life easy. You have so many cultural, and we get so confused. Sometimes cultural traditions are so burdensome on human beings, and we don't even know if it's correct or right. Look in the light of Quran and Sunnah. And even cultural things, if the culture does not contradict anything according to the Quran and the Sunnah, it's fine. Like, a lot of different, some wedding events, and, women get together and they say, that's fine. But if something, and for example, it's culturally, it's not acceptable with the Quran and Sunnah, it's not acceptable, whether it's in your culture or not in your culture. Okay, so the Quran makes life easy, right? How does it make life easy? You focus on things that really matter. You leave the things out that don't matter, right? And when you focus on things that really matter, how does it make? It makes your akhirah better. So this is the virtue of Quran, which was revealed in the month of Ramadan. And how something important things to know about the Quran itself, how it was revealed. So it came down on Laylatul Qadr, okay, the night of power in the month of Ramadan. And from where? From Lahwul Mahfuz. This is a preserved tablet. Okay, in fact, the Quran was created even before the creation of mankind in a preserved tablet. And from there, it was revealed on Laylatul Qadr to the lowest heavens. And from there, it came to Prophet. Did it come as a book? No. Did it come all at once? No. It came gradually over a period of 23 years to Prophet. So Quran was already there, up with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, in a preserved tablet, and it came down on Laylatul Qadr to the lowest heavens. And from there, Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel Jibreel, brought it to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, gradually starting from the cave Hira that we know, from Surah Al-Alaq, the first 5 verses of Surah Al-Alaq, where the first verse is revealed to him, okay, and it was revealed, came down in the month of Ramadan on Laylatul Qadr. So what makes the month of Ramadan so beautiful, so amazing? Because it's the month of Quran. It is the month that person should connect with the Quran. Okay, if a person renew their relationship with the Quran, what did the Prophet ﷺ do in the month of Ramadan? They finished the entire Quran, the reading of the entire Quran with Jibreel alayhi salam. Okay, in fact, the year that he was going to pass away, he did it twice. He did the whole Quran twice. So it's a good sunnah to try to go over or recite the Quran, the whole Quran. And you have to, and for this, again, planning is required. Allah says, Ayama ma'duda, these are few numbered days. So plan ahead. This is our time actually to plan how many days I'm going to read, how many pages I'm going to read after, let's say, every salah, every first salah. So I'm able to finish the reading of the Quran, the entire, and only not reading, but we should also be engaged in understanding the Quran as well. So both the reading of the Quran and the understanding of Quran should be done. So and 30 days are good, even psychologically, to form a habit. So this should continue even post Ramadan. Okay. So Quran, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Then the one who they witness this month. How do they witness the month? By the moon. Okay, then that person should fast. And again, that person, the moon can be seen by one person in the community. Okay, and then the entire community can fast. Okay, and how? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, sorry, that when if the person observe fast on sighting the new moon and break the fast on new moon. So basically moon to moon. That's how Islamic months work. But if the sky is cloudy, then you complete 30 days. Okay, but alhamdulillah, we have a lot of resources to be able to sight the moon or however. Okay, so if one person or a committee, whoever you follow, okay, they have sighted it and seen it, then you should start the month of fasting. Okay, and then again, Allah subhanahu says, وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, the one who is sick or they're traveling, فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Then that person who is on a journey, who is sick, or those who are traveling, then they can let them fast an equal number after the month of Ramadan. Okay, and when a person, after they've reached that, they have completed this month, وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ, then the person, when they have completed these number, meaning the month, all these days of fasting, what should they do? وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ, they should glorify Allah. Allah, tukabbir comes from akbar, Allahu Akbar. So when we say that, they should proclaim the greatness of Allah. Why? What is the purpose again, right? So for everything, Allah subhanahu tells us you should do this, but this is the reason, or this is the thing. So Allah says that we should glorify Allah. You should, say how great Allah is. Okay, ala ma hadakum, because of all the things that He has guided you on, all the things He has guided you. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so you become more grateful to Allah. What is the gratitude for? That Allah has given me fasting. That for me to fast is for my benefit. So I get closer to Allah. I develop good habit. I increase in my taqwa. That Allah has given me Quran. Imagine if He had no guidance, right? And not just Quran, He gave us a person who acted on the Quran, right? What was said about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about the character of Rasulullah sallam, what did she say? She said he's the Quran. He's the walking Quran. His character is the Quran. So we not only have the book, we have a person who showed us how to act on the commands of Allah, how to live our life, the kind of character that we should have. Okay, these are things that person becomes grateful for, that Allah has not only this worldly test, but Allah has made ease. Like how, for example, it's on a very worldly terms, but and there's no comparison. But imagine a teacher who puts a test, but they're so helpful. They put all the guidelines, they give you a mock exam too, they give you all these easy ways, tricks, make up assignments, this and that. And what do you think about that professor or teacher? You're so happy about them, right? So here, of course, is a human example on a human level, but think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has facilitated us with all these things, right? So when a person is observing, when a believer is doing all that, Allah has given me fasting. And not only that, Allah has given me ease in fasting. So if I'm in certain situation where I'm traveling, or I'm sick, or whatever my situation is, I can do so and so things, and I will not be liable for it. So it's not harming my body in any way. So for all these things, I have to be grateful. And and Quran, it's guidance for me. It tells me what is right, what is wrong. It makes my life more easy, right? So for these things, I have to show shukr. And after the month of Ramadan on Eid, or Eid al Fitr or Eid al Adha, okay, what is the common practice that we're supposed to do? We're supposed to say the takbirat, right? The takbirat meaning the words that show glorify or show the greatness of Allah, right? You see, masajid, or you traveling, and one of the sunnahs of Eid is that when you're walking towards or traveling towards the masjid, you say our entire day you spend, the greatest ibadah on the day of Eid is actually saying takbirat. You say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. So you say all the takbirat. This is glorifying Allah. Okay, this is showing a shukr, and the day of Eid should be a day of shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so this is the month of, and inshallah bismillah, we will have just one halaqah focused just on next month. Actually, yeah, February 24th, I believe, is going to be how we have the sisters halaqah. So we will be having a halaqah talking about the the sorry, talking about the Ramadans, everything related to Ramadan, like fiqh of fasting and things, reminder about Ramadan. And inshallah, we also have a specific Ramadan workshop that will be coming up, okay, in the month of March, that's specifically focused on, so children of different age and adults can join that. Okay, so it's there's a flyer here, and inshallah, the ones who have joined online, we will share the flyer in the group. Okay, so basically the do's and don'ts of fasting, the fiqh of fasting, also the importance of the day in the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Sahabas in fast during the month of Ramadan, what they would do, okay, how they would do how would they pray the nightly prayers, everything related to Ramadan, and on the day of Eid. So it's called the Ramadan workshop. We will be having that in the month of March on March 9th. Right. So inshallah bismillah, we will end our class here. Just one of the sisters had a question about let me check. Okay, so the ayah of will, it was not the ayah of inheritance, is the ayah of will and how to write what can be given in the will. And again, this ayah, so about inheritance, who is legally entitled to inherit, that is more further described in Surah An-Nisa. And this ayah is not about inheritance. This ayah is about writing a will. Again, to repeat for the ones who would like to listen about it. So the ayah of, so Allah SWT tells that anyone who would like to write a will, and Prophet ﷺ said, if anyone wishes to write a will, they should not wait for more than 2 days, meaning they should just write it right away. And so again, just to repeat previously about the will is written in terms of property and wealth. It is written for people who are not legally already inheriting. And for example, if someone doesn't write a will, what happens to their wealth and property? Is the whole wealth and property after paying the debt is then distributed to the whole, all of it is distributed to the legal inheritance, which includes the parents and the siblings and the children and the spouse, all of that, and how much, and this is all given in detail. But we're not talking about this. The will is written. A person can give wealth or their property or whatever they own, maximum 1/3 of it to anyone other their legal inheritance. Okay, so anyone they wish, any organization, any masjid, anything, any cause of good, wells, building a well, whatever they would like to support, whoever they like to support, and they can write that in their will, but it should not exceed 1/3. Also, will can be used to advise family members or write some things, give certain advice or certain things. For example, someone runs an organization, who would they like this to be run by later on, or who would they like to take charge of it? Things that are not related to property and wealth or business or something like that, they can write that, or just advice. Okay, so the purpose of will is, the main purpose of will is that a person's good deeds continue after their death. That's the actual main purpose. Otherwise, even if they don't write a will, the inheritance will inherit. They are supposed to inherit legally in Islam. Okay, according to the Islamic law, they will, whether the person likes it or not, they have a good relation or not, they will inherit. That inheritance will go to the legal inheritance. Okay, but if someone wants to continue their good, then this is the benefit of writing a will. Okay, and even will can be written on small things too. They're like clothing, who would like their clothing to be distributed. It actually helps the family members actually. Or, my books, someone loves to read books. They have a whole collection. I like my books to be donated to this place. They can write that in the will. And in fact, it makes life easy for the family members, especially when someone passes away. There's a lot of emotional distress. So it makes it easy for the family members to, when giving away of things or whatever it is. So inshallah bismillah, that's the purpose, and that's to make it like in simple words. In terms of inheritance, that's on different ayat. That's a whole long. Inshallah, when we read Surah Nisa, we will discuss in detail about how the inheritance, how the wealth is distributed, what amounts and how it is distributed, and also mention in Minhajul Muslim, volume 2. If anyone would like to read in detail, it's mentioned there in detail. Okay, and also if anyone would like to ask any question, either way to the will or today's ayat about fasting or who can refrain or about fidya, they can ask any of the questions, or inshallah bismillah. Otherwise, we will end our today's session. If anyone has questions. Also, another thing, yes, also there's a brother's halaqa, which is, so we did have a sister's halaqa on previously. This Saturday we had one, and then we will have another halaqa, which is the get together of sisters on February the 24th. And brothers halaqa is coming up on February the 10th. So if you know any brothers, your sons or brother, or so ages middle school plus, okay, middle school, high school, university, or even older. We have different various ages, so they can inshallah be happening here, whoever is here, so here, and there'll be address, so inshallah bismillah they can join it there as well. Also, lastly, and it's a humble reminder, I would really request everyone, especially in the vicinity of Mississauga, to please come in person. The main thing about knowledge is not acquiring information. Knowledge is gained by striving. You have to put in effort. Knowledge is not gained in a comfort zone. That knowledge is just information. The knowledge for which one travels, one strives, that is actually, we ask Allah for ilmun nafi'ah, that knowledge that is beneficial. We just not ask Allah for knowledge. Anyone can have a lot of knowledge. Do non-Muslims read the Quran? Or, anyone can read the Quran, actually. You can open the book. But learning, because a knowledge comes with adab, etiquette. When you come in a gathering of knowledge, and then there's a lot of reward for even traveling for knowledge, whether you make it to that place or not. And if a person, for example, while they're going to a place to gain knowledge, and Allah subhanahu takes their soul, then they are leaving in a state of striving, in jihad basically, right? We're in a state of striving, right? And angels surround that gathering and that person. So even if you learn one word, but in a gathering of knowledge, you sit there, you strive for it, that one word will have more impact than a lot of words that are, sitting in a very comfort zone. And that actually, we learn a lot, and we think why it's not affecting our heart. This is one of the reasons, because adab, etiquette is very important. Gathering of the angels that are there. In fact, we don't know angels' form. They're swimming around. How do angels travel? Allah subhanahu says, right, okay, وَالصَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا. They travel, they're swimming around, and wherever they hear the word, the Quran, they start gathering there. In fact, we can see them, we start forming a canopy on that place. So, when we travel for a lot of things. We travel 2 hours for work, we'll take the highway, we'll be stuck in the traffic. So when we'll strive for this, what about knowledge? This is the best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, Quran is huwa khayrum مما يجمعون. It is better than anything you can gather. It's better than any kind of salary you can get. It's better than any kind of position that a person can get. So request, especially people who close by. Okay, we have a lot of ease. Yes, of course, if someone has, they know that everyone knows their situation, but really we put a lot of effort for other things. We make it to our appointments, we make it to our work, we make it to our school, different things. But this is the best thing you can do. Okay, and if really you want to be, it's not for satisfying ourselves. Sometimes, it's like, oh yes, I learned the Quran a little bit, so I'm good. We have inside, we have our compass, we always have to satisfy it, right? So yeah, you just satisfy. No, the main thing is to connect with Allah and connect in a proper way. And knowledge is based on etiquette, how you come, the people you sit with, right? The Sahabas, what was the reason that why they would spend so much time with the Prophet ﷺ? Right? Abdullah bin Masud, right? He was, and you'll see a lot of the hadith are from Ibn Masud. Ibn Masud related this, he did this. Well, you know what he used to do? He used to carry Prophet slippers. He used to carry Prophet pillow. If Prophet wants to read, this was his etiquette. Because of his etiquette, Prophet he admired him. He used to make Abdullah bin Masud recite. Prophet himself received the Quran, but he used to ask Abdullah bin Masud to recite the Quran. And he would become, why is Prophet asking me to recite the Quran? He's the Prophet of Allah, but because of his etiquette, because of his eagerness. So we have to strive to become this. Then we will see changes in ourselves, and then we will see changes in our people, in our family. Okay, and then we really can. So I request again, this is just a side advice reminder for anyone to please strive for knowledge, and this will help us change ourselves, inshallah, bismillah. Okay. So jazakumullah khairan to everyone who's joined, and inshallah bismillah, we will see you in the next class on Wednesday. We'll end our class here. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Okay, see you all next week, inshallah.